Namo Namaha, Namah Sarvebhya. Today it's the course on Sanatana Dharma for youth, and it's the second day of the class on how do we learn science from our scriptures by Dr. Bhavani Tripura. We will start the class with Prarthana. Om Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Over to you, Dr. Bhavani Tripura.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I would just like to continue what we have learned yesterday. Last class, there were few glitches. So I hope I will be able to overcome those. I hope you are able to see the screen.
Yes, ma'am. We can able to see, ma'am.
Okay. This message is seen, ma'am. This message is being recorded and all.
Yes, recording started, ma'am.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So I would like to give a small review. In the last class, we were talking about the main root of the word Veda, which means knowledge. Later, we talked about the Purusha Suktam, the first shloka of Purusha Suktam, which when it is deciphered in the other way, we will be able to generate electricity. And also, we talked about the secrets of Rudra Suktam, the Chamakam, the what you call odd numbers, and also the multiples of 4. If we are decoding them in a proper manner according to the principle, we will be able to understand that it is a DNA model which is being described through the Rudra Suktam. Apart from that, we were talking about the circumference of the circle, which was expressed by Aryabhatta, and also the value of pi, which was already existing in the Rig Veda. Later on, we talk about the other scientific aspects which were already existing in our Sanatana Dharma, or you can say in our scriptures of Vedas and Upanishads. We were talking about the process of cloning. I narrated through a story how we are able to cure the diseases with few simple equipments, not using much of the stitching, cutting, and all these things. In a very simple manner, we were able to cure the diseases also. We talked about the process of cloning. I just wanted to make the class little interesting, so I narrated all the stories. But in that process, in the beginning, we have the concept of the eclipse, which was described in the Rig Veda. In Rig Veda, you have the description of the sun, which is considered to be having a chariot which is pulled by the 7 horses. The same description which is given in the Rig Veda, in the Panchama Anuvakaha, in that the way the sun god is described, and always we see in the historical serials or wherever sun god is described, we always see that the sun god travels in a chariot which is made of 7 horses. And so the same is being carved in the Konark temple, and these 7 horses are considered to be the 7 Vibgya colors of the rainbow. In this regard, we have this shloka which says about the Suryasya Vivada Varnaha Pavanena Vigatitaha. So when you read the complete shloka, it describes that when the rays of the sun are divided through a medium, then we will be able to see the segregation of the 7 colors, which is in the form of a bow, which is also called as the rainbow. Indra Danuhu, we call it in Hindi or in Sanskrit, and in English we call it as a rainbow. So even in Vedas, we have the description of the 7 colors of light, and it is as I told you, it is described that these 7 colors are represented by the 7 horses. Now we come to the another scientific concept of the gravity. The gravitational force, which we which we have kept learning from our childhood in the textbooks, that the gravity, it was invented by Isaac Newton, that when he was sitting under a tree, an apple fell down, and with that he was able to talk about the gravitational force. But this gravity or the gravitational force was narrated or described about in the Vaiseshika Sutras. We can find in the Vaiseshika Sutras the complete shloka. I think you can see on your screen. So it is Atma Karma Hasta Sanyogascha Sanyoga Bhave Gurutvat Patanam Nodanat Yavishoh Karma Tat Karma Kari Tacha Sanskarat Duttaram Tatottaram Uttaram Cha. Okay, you can read the shloka, and the complete meaning of the shloka can be understood. That the translation also is given. So even in our Vedas and Upanishads and in the olden scriptures, which we generally depict them to be the Shruti and Smriti, such things, such great scriptures have got all the information relating to the scientific, modern scientific aspects, which people think that they have been narrated by the Western scholars, can all be seen in our scriptures since then. Most of us talk about the dilation of time. Okay, so in our stories also we find the description of the dilation of the time. You have the story of Kakudami, according to which they sat in the Brahmalok for only 20 minutes and millions of years passed on the earth. So the same related verse can be found in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so the story goes like, when Kakudmi arrived there, Lord Brahma was engaged in the hearing of the musical performances by Gandharvas and had not a moment to talk with him. Therefore, Kakudmi waited, and at the end of the musical performances, he offered his salutations to Lord Brahma and thus submitted his long-standing desire. After hearing his words, Lord Brahma, who was really most powerful, he laughed at Kakudmi and said, "O king, all those whom you may have decided within the core of your heart to accept as your son-in-law have passed away in course of time. 27 Chatur Yugas have already passed. Those upon whom you may have decided are now gone, and so their sons, grandsons, and descendants, you cannot even hear about their names." So this concept, most of us see that when people move away from the earth because of the reduction in the gravitational force, what happens is the movement of the time slows down. So above the earth we have the space, and after the space we have Vishnu Lok, Brahma Lok, and all the other lokas are there. So when we move to the Brahma Lok, it is very, very, very slow. So the time passes there very slow. So we have the description where Lord Brahma blinks his eye once. That is equivalent to the 365 1/4 days on the earth. So the time taken for Lord Brahma to blink his eye is equivalent to 1 year on the earth. Like that, we have the description about the time gap. So this is what you call concept of time dilation, which is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the same way, we have the concept of multiverse. Nowadays, in what do you call, in the modern generation, most of us might have seen the movies like Avengers and Doctor Strange and all these things, where children talk about many things, where they will keep discussing about transverse universe, multiverse, and parallel universe, and all these things. But all these things were already described in our Vedas and Upanishads. Even if we read about this Srimad Bhagavad Gita, in the Purushottama Yoga, first shloka itself, we started with the shloka of Urdhva Moolam Adha Shakam. So in that also, Lord Krishna describes that the world which we are now living is just upside down, where the roots of the tree are in the upper portion, and the leaves and branches are to the down part, which implies that the present world in which we are living is a replica of the other world. So in the other world, if they say, it is the image or the reflection which is falling on the earth. So in this manner, we have the description of the multiverse and also the transverse universes, which are explained in our sacred books like the Shruti, Smriti, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and all these other things. We find all the scientific concepts which are being explained. Similarly, we have the concept of sphericity of the earth. That means, like in our childhood, right from our childhood, we have kept learning that sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Okay, after few years, when we come to our 5th or 6th standard, we say that sun doesn't move from one place to another, but it remains at one place, and the earth rotates and revolves around the sun from west to east. So we see that the sun is rising in the east and setting in the west. In this manner, we learned different concepts about that the earth is spherical in shape and it is not flat. All these things are explained, and we learned that some of the other scientists of the western countries have depicted, or they have formulated, or they have invented, but these things are existing in our scriptures. Once again, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the one of the shlokas, it describes about the concept of sphericity of the earth, and also about the rising and the setting of the earth. So we have here Tatratyanam Divasa Madhyangata Eva Sada Disyat Tapati Savye Nachalam Dakshinena Karoti Yatro Deti Tasyaha Saman Sutra Nipate Nimlochati Yatra Kwachan Syandenabi Tapati Tasya Haisha Samana Sutra Nipate Prasvapayati Tatragatam Na Pashyati Ye Tam Samanu Pashyeran. So it says that all the living creatures residing on the Meru mountain are always very warm as at midday, because for them the sun is always over the head. Although the sun moves in the anti-clockwise direction facing the constellations, with Meru mountain on its left, it also moves in the clockwise and appears to have the mountain on its right, because it is influenced by the Dakshina Varta wind. People living in countries at points diametrically opposed to where the sun is first seen rising will see the sun setting. And if a straight line were drawn from a point where the sun is at midday, the people in the countries at opposite end of the line would be experiencing midnight. Similarly, if people residing on the sun is setting, where countries go diametrically opposite, they would not see the sun, and so it would be night for them. So this description was given in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Now, we have the concept of universe as a projection in the space. According to the Vedas, we have the description of universe as being appearing in the space time. So how it is described? It is described as the Purna Kumbodihi kala ahitastam vai pashyamo bahuda na santaha. So it appears as if a full pot has been placed in time, and it is that which we see manifoldly. And also in the Dakshinamurti Stotram, which was composed by Adi Shankaracharya, it reads that Bijasyantari Vankuro Jagadidam Pranga Nirvikalpam Punaha Maya Kalpita Deshakala Kalana Vaichitrya Chitri Kritam. So the world, it appears like a sprout from a seed which transforms. What is changeless state before appears again as space and time and endless varieties of picture over it. All it is due to the creation of Maya, that is illusion. Once again, we have the cyclic nature of time. That means time, once it keeps on moving, it doesn't stay at a, it is not standstill. So in Rig Veda, we find the description of the cyclic nature of the time and also the creation. The shloka from the Rig Veda, the Shamaunavaka, it reads as Suraya Chandramasau Dhata Yatha Purvam Akalpayat Divam Cha Prithvim Cha Antariksha Matoswaha. So the ordainer, the creator, the sun and the moon, like those of previous cycles, he formed in order heaven, earth, and the regions of air and light. Similarly, once again, we have the concept of the speed of light. So all these things which we think that they are very, very new concepts, actually they are the treasures of our Vedas and Upanishads. Once again, we have the description of the speed of light, which is appearing in the Rig Veda. And also we have the quotes from Taittiriya Brahmana of Yajurveda, which says that Tatacha smaryata yojananam sahasram dvedve shete dvecha yojane ekena nimishardhena kramamana namostute. So it is remembered, or we bow down to the sun god and we say that we bow to you, you who transfers 2202 yojanas in half a nimisha. In half a nimisha, this is what the sun god has transferred. And on converting the above quote with respect to the modern figures as done in that answer, we get the approximate value of speed of the light, the time taken by the light to travel from the sun to earth. Okay, we have the calculation here. Yojana, actually it is equivalent to 9 miles, and a nimisha is 16 by 75th part of a second. Therefore, when we do the calculation of 2202 yojanas, means 2202, which is multiplied by 9, and also of half of a 1/4 part of a nimisha. So once again, we process that 16 by 75, so it comes to 75 by 8 nimisha. So the calculation comes to 185,794 miles per second, or it comes to 2,99,000 kilometers per second, which is completely close to the modern techniques, or the scientists, we can what do you call, we can assimilate that it is almost very close to 3,000 kilometers, which is declared by the modern scientists. Now this, I think, the core of the earth we have done in the previous class. This is the process of cloning, following which we have spoken about the story of King Prithu, who was the person who was cloned by the sages after the death of his father, King Vena. Okay, so as we have started learning what are the different scientific aspects existing in our Sanatana Dharma, or in our ancient scriptures, I would like to take one of the examples, which is question kind of thing which was written by Bhaskaracharya. Bhaskaracharya in his Ganita Shastram, he has quoted a question which is taken from the epic of Mahabharata. If the participants have little knowledge about the Sanskrit grammar also, in our Dhatu Rupani, when we learn our Dhatu Rup, the formats of our verb, we write it in a tabular form. When we write it in a tabular form, we have Ekvachan, Vivachan and Bahuvachan. And to the left side, we write the person, Pratham Purush, Madhyam Purush and Uttam Purush. So, first person, second person and third person. Generally, when we say Pratham Purush, people generally get misguided, or they think that Prathama means first person. But it is not so. Pratham Purush, it always talks about the third person. Saha, Tau, Te. This is how we read. Saha means he or she. Tau means they both. Te is they all. So, Pratham Purush, when we are talking, it is the third person. So, third person is very, very important in the conversation when we are talking about. And Madhyam Purush is the opposite person who is sitting in front of us. So, it is Tvam, Yuvam, Yuyam. That is you, you both and you all. The last part, or the in an order, when we talk about the Pratham Purush, Madhyam Purush, at the end we say about Uttam Purush, which is the first person. When we are saying first person, it is who we are talking about: I, me, myself. I, we both, we all. If we go by Ekvachan, Vivachan and Bahuvachan. So, Uttam means what? Uttam means the best. So, even in the smallest concept of the grammar of learning the dhatus, the different forms or the tenses of dhatu, we have Pratham Purush, Madhyam Purush and Uttam Purush. How beautifully our scholars have formulated it. Pratham Purush, which is more important to us, the other person is more important. He is of first priority. So, we call the third person as Pratham Purush. Next comes the order of Madhyam Purush. Madhyam Purush is the person who is in front of us. Then the best importance means when we are talking about Uttam Purush. Uttam means the best. Means what? Uttam Purush is attributed to I. Until and unless I consider myself to be the best, we cannot prosper in our life. So the first, whenever we are thinking about ourselves, we need to be confident. Until and unless I am confident that I am doing to the best of my knowledge, I cannot prosper. So even in the grammar part, our scholars have formulated it in such a way that whenever I am reading aham, avam, vayam, whenever I'm saying aham, I means what? Which purush? It comes to Uttam Purush. Means what? I need to consider myself to be Uttam. Until and unless I consider myself Uttam, I cannot have confidence. Once I have confidence, then I can do every work in a right manner with right perspective. So these are the simple concepts which we really need to understand, remember and follow. So till now, we were talking about the various aspects which are existing in our ancient scriptures. Now, how we need to learn from them, as we have learned in the Purusha Suktam, that if we decode the Purusha Suktam first shloka, we are able to generate electricity. In the same way, when we learned about the Rudra Suktam, about the odd numbers and the multiples of 4, we are able to learn or understand that we can decode it into the form of a DNA model. Now, we are taking the example of the great mathematician and scholar Bhaskaracharya. Okay, so this shloka we need to really understand in a right manner with the right perspective. So the shloka, it is actually a question. Partha Karnavadhaya Marga Gananam Kruddho Rane Sandade tasyardhena nivarya tacharaganam मूलैश्चतुर्भिर्हायन् शल्यं षड्भिरथेषु बिस्त्रिभिरपि छत्रं ध्वजं कार्मुकं चिच्छेदास्य शिरः शरेण कति ते यान अर्जुनः सन्दधे. So if we translate the shloka, these are the different concepts which are there in these 2 lines of the shloka. The meaning of the shloka, it is actually in the form of a question. So the question reads as, during the battle between Arjuna and Karna in Mahabharata, Arjuna has released some arrows. Out of the arrows released, half were consumed in stopping the arrows coming from Karna. 4 times the square root of arrows were consumed to control the horses of Karna's chariot. 6 were used for gaining control over Shalya, who was the charioteer of Karna. 3 were used to take on the umbrella and flag of the chariot and also the bow of Karna. Finally, Karna was killed by a single arrow. So, now the question is, how many arrows were released by Arjuna in the battle? Okay, so the basic algebra easily gives us the answer for this question. So if we use the equation x is equal to x by 2 plus 4 root x plus 6 plus 3 plus 1, if we do the mathematical calculation of the equation, we get the value of x as equal to 100. So now, if we leave about the mathematical calculation, we also need to understand about the various other aspects which are imbibed in these 2 lines of the shloka. Now, we need to understand that this mathematics is not just related to the solving of the question or the mathematical equation. We also have many more things, like even for an Athirati. Athirati means one of the greatest warriors. Okay, so the title of Athirati is given to a warrior who is able to control many rathas. So like Arjuna, an Athirati like Arjuna, it has almost taken 50 arrows to stop the arrows of Karna. That means we need to imagine that how great are the archery skills of Karna. And then the horses were needed 40 arrows to immobilize the chariot, which is giving us the description that the horses were so well trained. That means if we really think in the what you call warfare kind of aspect, we will really understand that how much of training is required for the horses, that Karna himself had to use 40 arrows to control the chariot of Arjuna. Then it says that Shalya had surrendered himself just within 6 arrows. The horses which were tied to a chariot, to control those horses, they needed 40 arrows. But the charioteer, who had all the efficiency to protect the person who is on the chariot, he has just given up within 6 arrows, which tells that that person, the charioteer or Shalya, he is taking the side of Arjuna. Wantedly, he has surrendered himself. Then we talk about the next 3 arrows with which the chariot and the umbrella were all destroyed. Now, when Karna has become helpless, only one single arrow was sufficient enough to kill Karna. So, The rules and skills required to win a battle are also explained in this shloka. It is not just about the mathematics, but we need to understand the warfare concepts also, which are being explained unintentionally. So, to stop the enemy firepower, second, what we need to do, we need to immobilize the enemy by taking on his mobility. Now, what is the mobility of the warrior? They are the horses because he is on the chariot. Next, we should make him helpless. When all the around surrounded by him are destroyed, then it is really very easy to eliminate the person. It is easy to eliminate the enemy. Now, we go to the next spiritual aspect. In spiritual teaching of Gita, Arjuna's chariot is traditionally taken as a symbol of human body. Okay, so the 5 horses of this chariot are taken as the 5 sense organs of a human being. The driver is the Sarathi of the human body, is taken as the power of human mind. Buddhi, to discriminate between what is right and what is wrong, to control these 5 senses. In these 5 senses, which are assimilated to the horses. And lastly, the purpose of this battle, Kurukshetra, riding on chariot, that is on the Ratha, is taken as the purpose of our life to get liberation, that is moksha. Moksha, it is considered to be a condition of eternal bliss from the endless cycle of birth and death, which is full of pains and agonies. Keeping in view all these things, if we analyze it into the spiritual side, we will get to understand the following important concepts. To attain the ultimate liberation or moksham, one needs to have control over his or her personal desires. This is being very difficult task, and so it takes an amount of 50 arrows. So striking 50 arrows is not at all an easy task. So the efforts which are taken to strike 50 arrows is the amount of efforts which we require to control our senses, our personal desires. Then what we need to do, we need to have control over our senses and sensual pleasures, which are indicated by the horses. So controlling our senses also is very difficult. It is not an easy task. How many arrows we need? We need almost around 40 arrows, only just 10 lesser than our personal desires. Nowadays, we need not have much of outward attractions or deviations. One small thing of a cell phone is more than enough to distract a person from his or her career oriented goals. It is a very small piece of technology, but these smartphones, I really say that they are even more smarter than us. Actually, the concept should be that we should be controlling the smartphones, but it is almost like these smartphones are controlling us. Sometimes the students, they don't have or they don't take that much of interest in maintaining themselves, but they see or check or take care that the phone is charged properly, it has got a proper cover, it has got headphones, the headphones are also charged, the earpods are charged properly or not. So they take lot of care of these stupid equipment than they take care of themselves, and this distracts them. You have everything on the earth in the phone. If we ask a question also, they don't use their brain to think, they don't use the energy. At least I feel that the thinking capacities or efficiencies of the students are coming down because of the smartphones. So all these things are to be noted and considered, and I think students should motivate themselves and increase their skills of learning, thinking, writing, because most of the times after this artificial intelligence has gained more prominence, most of them have really stopped thinking also, I believe. So to have a control over all these things, it is really very, very difficult, that too in this present world where technology is taking a step ahead. Then anyways, gaining control over the senses will lead to control over the consciousness. Once we take control over our senses, we will be able to control our conscious. So what we call generally jitendriyaha, a person who is able to control the senses can have a good and bright future. So after, if all the foregoing are done, achieving the ultimate target, that is liberation, should relatively be very, very easy. This is the greatness of our Sanatana Dharma. So this was the thing, a small example that how well Bhaskaracharya has taken the story of Mahabharata. Just the one small incident of the battle between Karna and Arjuna. He has just asked a question, how many arrows are used by Arjuna? Later on, it went on, went on, went on. So we are able to learn so many aspects, okay, about the warfare, about the greatness of the horses which are being trained, about the skill of archery of both Karna and Arjuna, and about the what you call political aspect, that Shalya is taking the side of Arjuna, and so he has almost surrendered himself with just a few arrows. Apart from that, we also come to the what you call philosophical aspect of life related to this question. Now about this concept of distance between sun and the earth, I think most of you must be knowing the sentence of Yuga Sahasra Yojana Parabhanu Lilyo Tahi Madhura Falajanu. It is the sentence which is existing in our Hanuman Chalisa. When we decode the complete line of Yuga Sahasra Yojana, that is the calculation of one yuga, which is equivalent to 12,000 divine years. Sahasram means 1,000, and yojana is, it is 1.6 kilometers, and which is equivalent to, I'm sorry, 1 mile is equal to 1.6 kilometers. So one yojana is equal to 8 miles. So when we multiply all these things, yuga into sahasra into yojana, then we get the exact calculation of the distance from the earth to the sun, which was traveled by Lord Hanuman, thinking that sun was a big fruit. He wanted to go and swallow it. So this story we all must be knowing. So just while praying to Hanuman, we are able to unintentionally learn the concept of the distance which is traveled, distance which is existing from the sun and the earth. So finally, I would like to end the session saying that there are very, very important scientific concepts which are existing in our scriptures, and most of the times they are formulated in such a way that unknowingly and unintentionally we keep reciting, reading, and learning them. Though we recite them, though we read them, and though we learn them by heart, we do not understand the decode, what you call, coded language or coded knowledge which is existing in these shlokas, sutras, or Vedas, Upanishads. So only few I was able to pick, and these are not actually explained by me. Whatever I could find in the different books which are explained by the great scholars, I have just compiled together and I have presented, just with the intention that when we listen to such things, at least not all, at least few of them would uh, get inclined towards our Sanatana Dharma, and they would make an effort to get proficiency or learn many things. And as I said, until and unless we have confidence in ourselves, we cannot prosper. So we all Indians need to be very, very confident that our Sanatana Dharma has got many things in it. Just the thing, what is required is our interest to decode and get the most knowledge which is existing in our scriptures. So I thank the Veda Samskruti Samiti for giving me this opportunity. I hope I was able to reach the audience. I don't know how many of them are there here, but even then, I have put my efforts. If any questions are there, I'm ready to take. Otherwise, Saugandhi ma'am.
Yes, Chief.
Ma'am, if there are no questions, I am done, ma'am, with my session.
Oh, yeah. That was a very nice session.
Thank you,
Yeah, you have
ma'am.
put in a lot of effort to compile and bring us information. I am
Thank you, ma'am.
sure somewhere there'll be a spark that is ignited and somebody will take it up and work on it.
Yeah,
All the
hopefully,
efforts
ma'am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with Bhagwan's Kripa, I'm sure there'll be.
Yeah.
This is a India that is awakening itself to its potentiality. I'm sure there'll be some children somewhere
Yeah. Sure.
do something for Bharat, for their land. We
Yes.
will end with Prarthana. I don't see any questions in the chat box.
Okay,
Anybody
ma'am.
has any questions? Please ask. Else we can end with Prarthana. I will recite the Prarthana. Maybe we can continue if any questions are there. Tejaswini, do you have any questions?
Tejaswini is not.
No,
Okay,
no.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I'll recite the Prarthana and then we can end the session. Dhanyavad Mahodaya. That was an excellent session.
Thank you, ma'am.
We'll end with Prarthana and we'll stand up for National Anthem after this.
Okay.
ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. We'll stand up for National Anthem. जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष माहे गाहे तव जय गाता जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your excellent session. I'm closing the recording.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
I
I'm
lost
stopping the
connection.
recording. Yes.